can't even believe I'm recording this episode right now because it feels like it went so fast, but it feels like it was so long. Like it's such a crazy feeling, especially when you become a mom. Like most of you listening maybe are moms, or you're going to be, you're on your way to becoming a mom. And it's like things feel like they happen so fast, but then it feels like it's so true. The days are long, the years are fast. But anyway, we are talking today, as you can see from the title, about how I successfully weaned my baby girl, Madison, off from breastfeeding. End of an era. I breastfed for over 2 years. I finished about last week, which was so like 2 years and 1 month, about a little less, like 2 years and like 3 weeks. We breastfed, exclusively breastfed. So she had like a bottle, like no formula, I mean, but like, I would like collect milk in the haka and put it in a bottle. We started that at 4 weeks. She would just have one a day so that she wouldn't refuse it and I could leave the house. So we would do one bottle like a couple times a week until she was like 6 months and she started eating foods. And then that was like really it, because if I left, she would be able to just like eat something. And I had the luxury, like I work from home. I didn't have to pump. Like I literally never used my pump. It's still like in a box in the closet. I don't even know where it is. So I would just like collect from the haka. So anyways, we exclusively like breastfed for over 2 years. And like, what an accomplishment. Truly the like biggest accomplishment in my life. Like, it's such an honor to have been able to do that, to have the luxury of being able to do that with being flexible with my work schedule, with being from home, with just, having the milk supply, her latching. Like I had truly, and like, I know it's not everybody's experience, but this is my experience. So I'm obviously going to share it. So, like what's possible. I honestly had like a picture perfect breastfeeding experience. It truly did. Like she latched right away. I never had any issues with her latching. I was never in pain in like the first day because like, we were learning each other and like, probably taking her off and your shoes on so much. And like, so probably like the first day or two, it was a little sore, but then after that, literally totally fine. I never had mastitis. I never had bleeding nipples. Like I never had any of that. She always had more than enough. She always met her birth weight plus. Like we had a beautiful weaning experience, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today, of how we did it. I didn't have any crazy hormonal crashes after. Like I've heard people feel like sick after they stop breastfeeding, or they have like the baby blues again. And like, I truly didn't experience any of that. And some of that, like some people be like, oh, well, like you're lucky. It's like, yeah, maybe some of it's just like genetic. I don't know. Cause no one in my family breastfed that long. But like, I truly believe a lot of it has to do with the way I take care of myself and the way that I did all of it. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. So I'm going to go over a few things. I want to talk, first of all, let me preface this by, I am not a lactation consultant. Like I have no like breastfeeding certifications, nothing. I'm just someone who breastfed for 2 years. So I know a thing or two about it. So I'm just sharing my personal experience so that to help support you in whatever way. And just so you could hear how it worked for me and you could try it out for you. So first I'm going to talk about like milk supply in the beginning, and how to like really support that so that you're able to breastfeed for as long as you want. Then we're going to get into how I started weaning. So, I did one previous episode about this, of just like being in the feels about it. So I'll link that below. But today I really want to talk about like tactically how I weaned, how it was so successful. I did it so slow, you guys, like so slow. And I did that very intentionally and for a reason. And we'll talk about that, of why. And so that's what we're going to get into today. So first, let's start with like having a high milk supply. This is a huge issue for a lot of people. And this I truly believe is how you are, number one, taking care of yourself. And the biggest thing that is going to impact your milk supply is how often you are feeding that baby on your boob from the beginning. The way that you're going to get good milk supply is having that baby on your boob every hour and a half, every 2 hours, even overnight for the first 2 months, like at least. And is it hard? Yeah. Yeah, it was really fucking hard, but I knew that I was setting my future self up for success by doing that. Because a lot of people, what they'll do, because, and I get why, like you can't have help then, right? Like, again, we didn't do any bottles until 4 weeks, and again, that's also very intentional for milk supply, also because every single time she needed to eat, I wanted my body to know that I needed to produce milk when she was hungry, so that my body knew that I had to continuously keep producing it, which was every hour and a half, every 2 hours, even overnight for the first 2 months. And again, those first 4 weeks, I didn't even do any bottles because I wanted everything to be coming out of my body. My body knows how much to actually produce. I also didn't pump extra or anything ever, but and I know some people obviously have to once you're going back to work, but in the beginning, it's always like feed your baby, not the fridge, because you don't want to overproduce either, because then that could cause a lot of issues with, like, getting mastitis or just like messing your body up. You don't want to have too much or too little. So what, like, my biggest recommendation for having healthy milk supply is getting that baby on the boob as soon as possible, right after birthing them. Obviously, some people have different births with like C-sections, might not be able to go on right away, but as soon as they can, get them on the boob. And whenever they are hungry, again, you have to wake them sometimes. Like, I literally had to wake her up in the beginning, every hour and a half, every 2 hours. It depended. I think in the beginning it was like, during the day, it was feeding her like every hour and a half. And then overnight, it was every 2 hours. But like sleep wise, you're sleeping for like 45 minutes chunks, because by the time you wake them up, change them, feed them, they're done, you get them back to sleep, you have like 45 minutes of sleep. So you got to feed them again, because it's every 2 hours from when they start feeding, right? So say they start feeding at like 3 a.m., you have to feed them again at 5 a.m. But by the time they're done feeding and you change them, it's like maybe 4 o'clock. So you're sleeping for like an hour before you have to wake them up again. But that is my biggest recommendation, because your body is going to know how much to produce based off of how much that baby is on your boob and how much milk you're producing. So that's my number one recommendation. And like I said, it's really hard because a lot of people will sometimes supplement with like formula overnight, because that will make them sleep longer. So they get longer stretches because it's thicker, right? The formula is thicker than breast milk. That's why you have to feed really often with breast milk, because it's very thin, because their bellies are so tiny. It's like the size of an almond. So a lot of people will do that, but then that will mess up your supply because your body doesn't know that they're feeding at that time. If you're giving a bottle that maybe you previously pumped even, or you're giving a bottle with formula. So as hard as it is and as hard as it was, I cannot recommend that enough for milk supply. And if you're like later in the game or whatever, and like you're like, wait, I didn't do that, this is when you would work with like a lactation consultant and stuff for helping up your milk supply. I don't know the ins and outs of how to do that once you're like months in. I'm just talking about like overall, if you haven't started breastfeeding yet, maybe you're pregnant, like this would be my number one recommendation. Get the baby on the boob all the time, like all the time. I also did not give a pacifier until 4 weeks old. So anytime she even wanted to just like soothe herself, she was soothing on my boob. Because again, that was my body's way of being like, oh, we need some more milk. So I always had milk supply, and I breastfed on demand. There was no schedule happening. She was hungry, I fed her. Again, if she was sleeping and it was like, over 2 hours, especially during the day, I'd wake her up and I'd feed her. But there was never a schedule in the very beginning. I don't think we even started going on a schedule till maybe like 3 months. We kind of fell into a pattern of like, going to quote unquote sleep for the first time at night, and in the morning, it's like honestly kind of a blur. Like I truly don't even remember like schedule wise, but like I fed on demand. When she was hungry, I fed her. If she ate, and especially like cluster feeding too in the beginning, if she ate and 45 minutes later she was hungry again, I put her on the boob. Like always. Doesn't matter where we were. Like I fed her in Home Depot millions of times, Target, on the side of the street when we were on walks, in the back of the car, random parking lots, Home Goods, like the grocery store, literally anywhere I was, if she needed to eat, that I right there, boob was there, which makes it so easy too. I don't have to prepare bottles. I didn't have to wash bottles. I didn't have to bring them. Like all I needed was my boobs and we were good. Like truly that was it. So that's my number one recommendation for having healthy milk supply, is avoiding supplementing with anything if in the beginning, and honestly just on the boob as much as you possibly can. Obviously if you're someone who's going back to work at 12 weeks, like I'm saying for like the first month, generally people aren't going back to work the first 4 weeks, right? So those first 4 weeks are crucial for you, like feeding that baby on the boob as much as possible overnight, round the motherfucking clock. Okay. It's a short period of time. It feels super hard in the moment. It was super hard in the moment, but honestly, what really helped me was just like, I just soaked up every second of those middle of the nights, even though it was so hard. Sometimes I would like be on my phone and do stuff at like the 3 a.m. feed because I was like, I'm so fucking tired. I'm going to fall asleep. And we weren't co-sleeping yet. We didn't start co-sleeping until 4 weeks, which made it so much easier because I would just roll over, give her the boob, roll back over, go to sleep. I would fall asleep as she was on the boob. Like it was so much easier once I started co-sleeping. But those first 4 weeks, we weren't co-sleeping yet because I was like, first time mom. I wanted to, but I was afraid because people, you hear people, these horror stories, all this stuff. That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, so that's my number one recommendation from Exploit, baby on the boob as much as possible. Secondly, of course, hydrating. Like hydrate that mother. Like you gotta drink a ton of water. My doctor was like, every single time you're breastfeeding, you should be drinking at least a full glass of water. Every single time you're breastfeeding, which is literally like 12 times a day, minimum 12 times a day. So you're drinking at least